Glad I caught it. And we're back this week in Coverager for the week of June 1st. This is the show where we talk about the major headlines that have occurred in the Coverager newsletter, the ones that got the most attention, the most drama. And like to welcome Avi and Shefi to the show. Good morning.
Hi, good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning. So Avi, I'll kick it over to you. What's your top story, top topic?
So one of the biggest stories this week on Coverager was Everquote trying to be more like Assurance IQ. So a few months ago, late last year, I would say, Everquote decided to launch an in-house insurance agency to focus on life insurance products. And this is something they worked on in the past. It didn't come to life so much. They kind of said, we're not doing it. But I think the Assurance IQ acquisition gave them the drive to say, you know what, let's do it. Let's compete with them. So they launched that. The platform was called Sage. I believe they trademarked it as well. And it was kind of similar, but a little different because they offered a $30,000 base pay, unlike Assurance IQ employees, or they're not employees, they're contractors, 1099 commission based only. So this week, we wrote about it this week. The job was going on for a few weeks. They decided to post a few more jobs. So first, they apparently are opening an office in Seattle, Washington. I think that's a 13-minute drive from Bellevue, where Assurance IQ is. So very close.
Okay.
And they are hiring first a remote agent, which is the first time they're doing. So remote agents, life insurance agents can work anywhere, very similar to Assurance IQ. And there is no talk about compensation. So you don't know if it's salary based or commission based. But I think the big story is the remote, the life insurance, and getting very much to be like Assurance IQ. And it's interesting for Everquote because Everquote does sell leads to life insurance companies. They are in the space of life insurance. They sell leads. So now the question is, what leads will they give their partners, and what leads will they use for their in-house agency? I see this as more of like, it's not about strategy. I feel like they want to be in the face of Assurance IQ. They want to be in the face of SelectQuote in a way. Both of them were either acquired or valued at a way higher than Everquote. So they may see an opportunity there. It's a very difficult space, but it's the space is becoming competitive, and I think it's bad news for Prudential, of course, because everybody's looking at Assurance IQ and saying, well, what are they doing? Let's do the same.
So I will chime in and say that this is a dream come true for Prudential because they thought they bought the Uber of insurance. And they actually started to promote that, I believe, on Instagram, right, Avi? That's the platform you've spotted. Well, think about it this way. There's no loyalty to Uber. A driver will swap from like Lyft and Uber and whatever apps are there in order to try and supplement their income. That's a reality, right? And that's similarly to what can happen here. Who's to say that the agent is going to be loyal to one platform or the other? And they're just getting a lot of that because it's so easy to continue with this commission-only model.
But there's another
It's a
problem.
tougher, yeah.
With the Uber of insurance, to be the Uber of insurance, everybody said, oh, who's going to be the Uber of insurance? Well, there are stories of Uber drivers where passengers go in and they get killed by an axe or they get attacked. Because when there is no regulation and you're not a driver who's been doing this for many years, or you actually want to be a driver, then the whole like commitment to the customer and patience that needs to come with the job, that's not there, and it's a very challenging business model. And when you look at Assurance IQ, the Uber of insurance, they give their commission-based agents kind of like a green light, go do whatever the hell you want. And then there's scam and fraud and a lot of bad stuff. So now Prudential is saying, wait a second, we write on our website how to avoid scamming seniors because, they're not in that business. So all of a sudden they're hiring all these compliance investigators to kind of bring it back to shape. But the problem is when you take that away, when you regulate it, then you can't sell as much. It's a fact. When you let people do whatever they want, they could sell. If you're 290 pounds and the health insurance is not going to take people over 285, let's say you're 285, and that happens. So now they're regulating it. They're going to see less sales. That's what happens. So Assurance IQ will not have the momentum it had. And for Everquote, which I doubt they will do something like that because, they're a public company, it'd be very stupid of them to do. They won't get to where Assurance IQ was before. It's a very, there's no win-win here. Like there's no way to win. There are no shortcuts. There are shortcuts to, yes, scamming seniors and all that stuff. And, Assurance IQ found a great shortcut in the Prudential acquisition. But will Prudential see any success from Assurance IQ if they take away what they're good at, which is letting loose and giving agents the green light to do whatever the hell they want? Of course not.
I want to make a general statement about this because I got a comment from a user who probably listened to our latest podcast, and it was around Geico's direct premium growth and a comment that Avi made in terms of slower growth than normal, right? Everything we're talking about really big companies, corporations, and most of them, all of them have money and capital. That's not the issue. If we thought that was it, then there's probably no room for coverage or for innovation or for new players, but we're not seeing that. So the whole idea is to spot the differences, to spot what is going wrong, what is not going as good as it went in 1990 or before 2012, right? So to spot opportunities, because there is no monopoly in insurance. You've got a lot of players, and this is really evident by Root, which we're going to talk about shortly, right? So where can you grab market share? So to put Geico's number into context, right? They started with 15 million. They now have 17 million customers, but to earn that other million customers, it took them a longer time than to jump from 15 million to 60 million. So we're talking about opportunities. You can hold on to your old metrics all day long, and if you do, good luck. I mean, then how do you wake up at night and thinking I'm going to win this? I have no idea. But if you look at the details, and if you look at the details in the context of insurance, which is really important, that's why you're rarely going to say us, oh, this is a disruptor or anything of that sort. We actually don't do that. Then you see opportunities, and clearly there are opportunities because there are new entrants and they are getting traction, right? So,
to your point with that Geico comment, I think it was 2018. 2018 was when they grew their policy base with a net 525,000 policyholders, I believe. So that's what they added. They may have sold 1 million, but they had 500,000 cancellations. So that's how they grew, and that was spending, I believe, 1.3 billion in advertising, 1.5 billion in advertising. It's competitive. It's more expensive. It doesn't matter if your name is Geico or Progressive. Of course, Progressive has the benefit. If you have home insurance with Progressive and you decide to launch a business, guess what? You're probably going to Progressive to see, do they offer commercial insurance? And they do. So you go in, you go through the flow, and the Progressive is very happy because they're top of mind. But it's growing slowly. To grow fast, you have to be very aggressive and maybe do stuff that you're not comfortable with. But there is no, oh, hey, we're about community. Come buy insurance from us. Forget about that.
So 2 examples of people that are trying to actually do something different, right? One, Hiscox. They will mention how we've got the traditional marketing tactics, whatever it will be, right? They work with advertisers, but then they will point out that we are being experimental, right? And a lot of it is being done in the UK in terms of how to target small businesses. And what I've seen is it's done around cyber insurance, which is gaining traction. Good for them. You have to be experimental. And in my mind, experimental means we're jumping into something. We don't know what the return will be, but let's try so we can know that if it does or if it doesn't work. Same thing I will tell the agents of Nationwide who are now jumping onto Hearsay Social because they want to try a Facebook ad. Hey, agents, it's not going to work, but if you had to wait till 2020 to figure that out, then go for it and let's move on. The other thing about agents being agents, carriers, or whoever is winning being a little bit experimental is Trupanion, right? There's a lot of talk about pet insurance. Trupanion is a company that you've got to respect. They're probably second in the space after Nationwide. And you hear them explain, even though they've got territory managers and they have a lead on vets and hospitals and they've got distribution figured out, they're not coming in and say, hey, you know, we're the King Kongs of the world. We figured out everything. It's clear from how they're positioning themselves and how they're talking about the market is that when everybody is going online, they said there's no difference. And Avi wrote this elaborately in the Modern Insurance Report about millennials, how when you're online, go differentiate yourself. It is so hard because there isn't that human element. And they're basically saying, you know, all our competitors, they have a checkbox that they're different and they're great. So it's up to the customer to do the research. So the market is changing. It may not be more competitive because in a different breath that Trupanion will say, hey, we're always competing against the same 20 underwriters and pet insurance, but there are ton more brands out there. Ton more brands, and it's up to the user to decide, are they buying from Policy Genius or are they buying from another life insurance aggregator, you name it.
Yeah, the internet's the great democratizer, right? It's so easy to set up, right? It's a web page, so someone that's trying to digitize their process, it's very easy to copy for one thing, but it's hard to get through the clutter and the noise that is the internet, where there's just a bazillion things being thrown at you. It reminds me of I was on the Elevate panel last week, this week. The weeks are all blending together, and Bradley Flowers was on there, and he counsels new agencies, right? And he's like, what's your differentiator? And he's like, his jaw drops every single time, and it shouldn't, when someone says, "Oh, our differentiators, we're really great at customer service." He's always like, "Well, how?" And they can't say it. They have these good intentions, but everybody is good at customer service. Everyone thinks they are. It's that checkbox, right? And it's just extremely difficult for you to differentiate yourself in this space. And I think the events of the past few months and the events of the past week are going to make that even harder, Shefi, because now there are these general property policies, right? Where we're going to go 50 states. Like, companies are going to have to really reconsider that strategy of just trying to sell to pretty much everybody, in all 50 states. Like, you're going to see a big pullback from cities. You're going to see a big pullback from offering business interruption coverage. There's going to be a big pullback. So if they're going to pull back, where else are they going to go to get premium? I struggle to see how executives at insurance carriers are innovative enough, because they've been doing the same thing for so long. I don't see how they're doing it. And the Everquote example is just in the way the Prudential's handle is just another example of, like, let's just copy what someone else is doing. We'll just add like a little twist to it and see if we can get some traction on it.
Yeah,
You talked about how the internet is kind of democratizing things, and in 1996, at a conference of the Society of Actuaries, I believe it was 1996, there was a guy, Mike Levine, I believe his name, and he said they were talking about the internet, how internet will impact insurance. 1996, more than 20 years ago, and he said, look, the internet gives a small company that may not have 500 locations across the country the opportunity to have presence at the front page. And it's exactly that. But we know that in a lot of cases, that's not enough anymore. So how do you differentiate? You say customer service, you can't feel customer service. You say your food tastes better, you can't feel that your food tastes better. You say claims, I don't know what claim is. So if you look at the most popular and in-demand insurance companies of the last decade or two, it's all about price. Warby Parker, just cheaper. Casper, cheaper. Dollar Shave Club, cheaper. It's all about price because price is a differentiator. You see the price tag and it's like, oh yeah, that's 50% off. And you look at Root, and of course it wasn't enough because everybody's saying, oh, 50% off. Everybody's doing that. But they said, well, 52% off if you drive well, and now it's a challenge. Yeah, I'm a good driver. I think I am. Let me see what I can get. So you want to differentiate on internet, and that's it. It's price.
Okay. So I was going to interrupt you anyways, Avi.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
good.
you know who doesn't compete on price? You know who's actually very much more expensive? Apple. Apple spends all of their time differentiating. And just look at the monumental effort that's required to get them to differentiate themselves. But I will tell you, for those that are listening, if you haven't had a chance, we just released the Just Auto podcast last week. That's an innovative differentiator. That is, name me another insurance company that is coming out and saying we are actually targeting low-income drivers.
The General. That's what I always thought. Am I wrong to believe this?
Well, the one with the accidents, I believe, right? The accidents.
Okay, let me change that.
By the way, I hate the brand. So
yes, well,
that's why I remember.
I love the General.
I know.
Name another company that's targeting low-income individuals and actually designing the entire product to execute on that. If you go to the General, you're just getting an auto policy. You may market to them, but the product itself is going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to low-income folks still have to make a huge commitment to it, which they can't do, which is why it's still a problem. Just Auto has built an entire business model, including the product design, to actually execute and help low-income drivers. That's a differentiator, Avi, and I'm telling you, go to any of the other major insurance companies. There's absolutely no way they would do anything like what Just Auto is doing.
Yeah, so I understand that they're only offering contracts for
the monthly contracts. So basically, it's more like a similar to a mobile phone with rollover minutes. So you pay for the first 30 days, telematics through your phone. It keeps track of the miles that you're driving. It actually will tell you how much of your balance you are consuming. So it'll help you adjust for the month, and anything you don't use rolls over into the next month. And then they use the telematics to then reprice every month.
And if I understand correctly, he's also targeting folks that don't have a credit score at all, or don't have a good credit score. And in that area alone, there are so many alternative distribution partners that he could be working with, like new fintech companies that are targeting that exact type of client.
I think it's a very interesting model, and we read Trupanion's transcript of one of their conversations, and what he kept on saying, look, we are expensive, we target a very different demographic, and when it's a hard time, and they talked about COVID-19, they didn't see many cancellations because these people have more income, so they're good to keep it. I wonder how a product like Just Auto will work, where a lot of these low-income people, if they have been working and been laid off, would they keep their auto insurance? That's my only objection. But yeah, if you build that and there's a community around it and it's real value, then yeah, there's no other, you're saying no one else is offering that. So you're the only one doing this exact thing.
So talking about people doing the same exact thing, Root Insurance Agency.
Good segue. Good job.
That's a new term. I don't know that I don't think I saw it coming, to be honest. Root Insurance Agency, especially because they've got this webpage that I always lose track of it, but it has this like illustration of where a mobile agency or a mobile carrier is sort of kind of the smallest agency you've ever seen, or something along the lines. I don't know. It's very cute. And it probably gets people to click and convert. However, Desperate times call for desperate measures. That's kind of how I look at it. They're bundling with Homesite now. So they're going to offer their auto insurance clients home insurance through Homesite with the opportunity to get 10% off their home insurance premium. Everything is done with an app, so they don't have to go to experience, like it's not through the Homesite experience. I haven't experienced it because I'm not a Root Auto customer. Otherwise, I would have loved to seen it. But we've got, Root, they're an insurer. They started out with auto. They moved into the renter's insurance space. They're moving now into the home insurance space. So literally, like if you look at it from the finish line, you're seeing a mini Progressive in terms of the audience that they're targeting and how they're targeting them. It's just that the sequencing is different. Anyway, that was a top story in terms of clicks on Coverager. So maybe it caught other people by surprise. Maybe the partnership with Homesite. Homesite. I have to read this to you. Hold on.
Oh, I love this.
Of course, I think every insurtech out there, okay, 99.9%, and I don't count Trustpilot reviews as trustworthy. So I'm going to put that aside. But for the most part, there isn't an insurtech or an insurance company that has their Facebook reviews, the honest Facebook reviews, the one that where you can tie it back to an actual individual and see a little bit about themselves, have it on, right? So we're all dealing with a very complicated industry in which every time there's a claim, there's somebody feeling unsatisfied, or most times I should say, right? We know that, we acknowledge that, we're not holding it against you. I'm just telling you where we are all the same, right? But Homesite reviews, of course, turned off, but people are going to the post, and one of it is terrible company for homeowners, Homesite. This company's definition of slimy, and they go on like we had wind damage. I'm not going to go in. These are very lengthy posts because people are passionate, especially when they're hurt. This is the worst insurance company ever! Exclamation point, exclamation point. Check your policy, make sure that the deductible set is what you agreed upon. Come on, these are not ignorant consumers. These are consumers that can talk about, describe their situation. So there is that element. Now, Root Insurance, in terms of reviews, they get a lot of bad reviews when people feel like they were good for 6 months and then the price was increased, right? So we've seen that. I think in terms of claims, Root actually has all claims in-house. Avi, you did a report, so claims is one of their largest departments.
The largest department by number of employees. And if you look at really the reviews, and we've been looking at them all the time. So I would say in the last 6 months, there have been more negative reviews than positive reviews because, the 6 months comes up, renewal, prices increase. And it's interesting, the home insurance, because the majority of their customer base is young. So I don't know if everybody owns a home. Maybe in Columbus, Ohio, they make enough money to own a home. Maybe, I don't know. But, or in other places, Texas is like their biggest state. So maybe there, young people have homes. I'm 35. I don't have a home yet. I've been quarantined with my in-laws for 3 months. So this is me. This is my story. But Root wants to get to that stickiness, and they want to make more money per customer. That's the name of the game. It always was. Good for them going that route. So does this mean that Root is now, because they say they don't work with agents, are they now working with agents?
They are. Well, no, they are.
Well, they're an agent. Now. Okay, so they're not working with themselves, but they're an agency.
Yes, that's the way to put it.
Yeah, but that's everybody looks to make more money. And again, to get to that stickiness. So if you do increase your rate, they say, well, the home insurance part is still good, so I won't cancel. That's like the decision.
No, this completely makes sense, because if they have to convince somebody to stay, it's a lot easier to convince a client to stay with bundling, right? We've seen it. Basically, I'm saying this is nothing new under the sun. So
no.
In a sense, the only thing that I didn't see was them becoming an agency and partnering with someone like Homesite.
But you know what? We talked about Assurance IQ. We talked about what happens when you take the magic away. Yeah. Whenever, and I said the same thing about Lemonade, and Lemonade to me is still like a mystery, but Root, the second an insurance company buys Root, let's say that's going to happen. Let's say a Progressive wants to buy Root. And the second they take away that 52% off and their annoying ads on YouTube, say 52% or pay how you drive, blah, 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 they're going to see less growth. They're not going to grow as fast. They're not going to attract as many customers. It's very simple. That's what's going to happen. But they're moving fast. And I wrote about this in the past, and I said Lemonade, while Root is getting dirty, and they're getting dirty, and they're going to get more dirty.
Yeah.
Lemonade is trying to, keep that pink beautiful and shiny. They're very careful with what they do, what states they launch, what they say. They haven't changed. And show me another website, okay, and insurance, and a lot of other places. Show me another website that hasn't changed its tagline from the get-go. Lemonade did not change, forget everything you know about insurance. Not yet. And that's their consistency. But I feel like, again, it's kind of like hurting them because they're going to go into pet. Pet is going to be challenging. They have a good shot, but they're going to need more. I believe they have 800,000 policyholders, but their premiums, obviously, when you look at, renter's insurance, it's just, you can't compare it to auto. It's just a different ball game. But Lemonade needs to add some, black to the pink, and I think do more, because in terms of execution, I don't think, they're very smart people over there, and they're very creative, and they can come up with good ways to figure out how to, be more than renters and pet insurance. So they'll have to, if they want to really get their money back.
Yeah, like the renters insurance market will never justify the valuation that they're getting. I think the valuation they're getting has always been the understanding that they would use their technology to go into other lines. Pet insurance makes a lot of sense because that's a checkbox on their renters insurance application, right?
Yeah.
And also when a renewal comes up, they can say, hey, we now offer pet insurance, and they can now bundle that. As Shefi said, bundling is going to increase retention.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to want to disassemble that. I can tell you from now personal example. So I was a Travelers customer for several years. I go through an agency system. They put me with Travelers, satisfied. Moved to Florida and went to a different agency, and they put me with Progressive. The first thing I noticed was Travelers has bundled everything. Everything's all on one website. I log in, I can see my renters, I can see my auto. Progressive does not have their own homeowners insurance company. I have a separate login. I have to go to a separate website to see my renters. I now have literally two policies that they've stitched together, and it is not enjoyable. I have to when I had to cancel my Travelers policy, I had to go to two different websites to get the documentation to send over to Travelers. So I understand the Root and the Homesite. It'll be all about execution on what they do. And like Avi said, I think there's so many different ways it can just blow up and not be good. Like we're in such a complex industry. People don't like the product, right? So you have to go out of your way to make the product design different, better. One of you were talking about claims. I've heard horrible things about Geico claims, but Geico keeps growing. Why? Because what Avi said, they're cheaper. So less than 5% of your policyholders are going to have claims every year. So if, let's say half of those people end up leaving because they're dissatisfied with the claims process, doesn't matter. You're getting the new customers will easily replace them.
Yeah,
So,
it's exactly that. It's like there's so many good things going for insurance. Like really, you could have such a bad product, but no one will know. Like a customer will not know you have a bad product because they will never have a claim.
Well,
And that's the
listen to
beauty
this.
of insurance.
You brought up Apple in the conversation. Apple needs to reinvent itself every few years, right? Smartphone, the pads, right?
Yeah.
It just they have to think like, what has really changed in insurance?
Nothing.
Don't say,
And
don't say
yet
that.
we all
Don't say
know
that, Nick. Don't say that. You're gonna
Brian
get them
Duperreau's
angry. Don't
salary.
Not
I'm
enough.
not going to talk about AIG.
As an insurance professional, I see the value of what we do on a day-to-day basis. I understand it. It is not enough. It just it's dissatisfying. Um, let me try to simplify as best I can. Selling insurance is dissatisfying. Um, Paying a claim is satisfying. I think we need to get to a point beyond this where there's something bigger beyond just paying a claim. My preference is that we prevent or mitigate the claim. We just prevent the claim from occurring if we can. That's much more satisfying to me. We're a long ways off, and I don't know how else we differentiate ourselves. Lemonade has made it a social cause. I salute them for trying to do it that way. But no, none of the other insurers are really doing anything that's, I think, noteworthy on the. And when I say none, I say most. But I see stuff like Just Auto, and it gives me hope.
I think it's very hard from like looking at from the insurance product, how do you really change it? And personally, again, I believe you could be more efficient and you could help really the client understand the value and help mitigate risk and all that. But then some will say to you, well, like I was speaking to someone, he said, look, if insurance companies want people to understand the value of insurance, they need to have claims. That's how they understand the value. Like you need to go through a claim to understand,
Yes.
oh, okay, this is good. So it's very difficult. I feel like a lot of it is like you can add value in different ways. It doesn't have to be around insurance. And I feel like that's one of the problems. And that's kind of the lie I feel like a lot of consultancies have been pushing and saying, oh, you can delight customers with insurance. If you had a claim and you offered a delightful experience, yes. But day to day, how are you doing
No,
that?
you cannot.
And not everybody is sophisticated enough to appreciate getting that smart sensor and like, oh, this really helps, mitigate the risk. Not everybody is like that. So it's very difficult. You will find Apple customers that are not happy. You will find that everybody has a complaint. No one is 100%. But I think in insurance, you need to say, can I do something better that hasn't been done in 200 years? I don't know how long insurance has existed. Or should I try to do something else? Should I try to do, offer some other benefit? Because at the end of the day, and I always like to give this example, when you go to a restaurant, you usually experience two things: the taste of the food and the quality of service. I know a lot of people, including myself, I would probably go eat not as a great of a meal, but if the owner remembers me and he gives me a high five when I come in, I like that. I know other people that say, I don't care if I'm eating from a dumpster. I just want the food to be the best. I don't care about anything else. So you at least have two things to consider. So the food may have been not so great, but you got dessert on the house, so you're happy you're going to come back. With insurance, you don't have those two elements. You have the price that's taken from you, every month you pay, and that's it. So if you have that bad claim, there's nothing. Like, why should I come back?
Yeah.
So you need to bring other things to the table.
So you can hear the exit music that's
Yes.
coming, but um, listen, this is just economics 101. There can really only be one price winner,
Yeah.
right? So low price is a very dangerous game for almost all insurers. Like there'll always be someone who's going to offer it at a lesser price than you. So I think
However,
however, okay,
nobody is targeting everybody. Everybody has something in their underwriting, their secret sauce, or whether it's InsurTech, that they know a demographic that they want to target, like Just Auto with low income. I don't think everybody is sharing it. Maybe one is focused on urban population. Maybe one is focusing on the
sure.
21 to 25, like Root. So nobody is going to insure everybody. And we do have a lot of insurance players at least pretending to play the game of price. Whether they stick to it for 12 months or 6 months, we don't know. But the reality is this is what consumers are hearing day in, day out. It started off with $5 renter's insurance.
That's true.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. I hate the price game. and I just want insurers to kind of step up and offer something that's meatier to differentiate themselves beyond just price. And we have a wealth of data. Let's use it.
So you taught me something, Nick. You don't know this.
I
You
did?
taught me many things, but one of the things you taught me was to look at things, right? So in Coverager, our strategy, we were big on online. We were always online, not very less offline. And we were talking about this, right? We were talking about how I think being online is effective, right? Has been effective for Coverager. Clearly, we have research customers and we're in business. And you've mentioned something in terms of when to go offline is important, right? So first, maybe there's an introduction through the internet, through webinar, and then if everybody's vetted out and serious, then you move to offline and you pursue, especially an enterprise sale, right? You might pursue the lead. So I'm talking about the B2B business. Same thing here with insurance. You can have a tactic for a year. That doesn't mean you need to carry that tactic forever and ever, right? So maybe you start in playing on price, but maybe you start to blur the lines because there's customer service, just like we were seeing with Progressive recently and with COVID, which brought in like tons of beautiful stories, right? I love everyone I'm hearing, right? So lots of good is happening in the industry. So there is an opportunity to move away from, you start off where the customer is at. This is what Lemonade did. They started off where the customer is at. Remember that this is not our money, this is their money.
Yeah.
This is probably every second person's opinion, especially if they're not from the insurance industry. And it resonated because they understood they were giving money, and when the claim was denied, when Daniel Schreiber said that, I get it. I got it. I still get it.
Yep.
I can play both ends, by the way, but both sides. But you don't have to stick to that all the time. There's a conversion process. You want a customer to stay with you. You want to evolve. We all have to evolve, right? I mean, God forbid we would have stayed, insurance entertainment. Like, everybody evolves. You can evolve with your messaging as well. But do what you have to do to get some scale at the beginning. So
I agree. So my exit music this week
right.
in Coverager. So that was spirited discussion. Thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For everyone
Thanks,
that's listening, crazy times. Be safe. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.